This episode, we're at Breakout 2025. This is the biggest board game convention in Canada, and I'm going to be talking to a board game designer and publisher about his upcoming game.
Hi, I'm Roberto Panetta from Rockstone and Dice Games, and I'm here to talk about Gems of Iridescia with Brian here.
Absolutely. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and Roberto Panetta is with us today. Rockstone and Dice is his company, and his first game is coming very soon. You kickstarted this thing.
Yeah, this kickstarted last fall. It was a great campaign, so now it's just about to go into production. We'll be fulfilling this summer and just working on getting it into more stores and distribution.
I got to play a pre-production version, I think, of Gems of Iridescia in November at Ludicon. That's where I met Roberto. What a fun game this is. Now, how did you get into board gaming to begin with? That's what I want to know. You're a board game designer, a board game publisher. How did all of this start?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a crazy story. So I actually studied design for 7 years post high school, and I really wanted to actually be in the video game industry. In Montreal, video games is a huge thing. Now, I accepted another job in graphic design in a manufacturing company straight out of university just to get some experience. And that ended up being a 17-year detour where I actually rose through the ranks of that company, did sales and marketing and whatnot, and stayed there for way too long. And then after 17 years, I decided that I wanted to bet on myself, chase one of my passions, and go into game design. Now, my interest had shifted a bit away from video games and more into board games. Mm-hmm. I really like the physical aspect of board games. I like sitting at a table with friends because, I mean, my fondest memories of playing video games would be like probably playing Mario Kart or GoldenEye on an N64 with your friends in the room. And now that's lost nowadays because everything is online.
Everything's online.
So board game has kind of brought that love back.
To get everybody around the table with physical and gorgeous physical pieces, honestly. I'm going to twist Roberto's arm to try and get him to send me a review copy of this thing so I can tell you all about it.
As soon as I can.
And theoretically, barring any weird unforeseen circumstances, Gems of Iridescia is going to be available all over the place in the summer, late summer.
Yep.
Okay, we'll say late summer.
We're on track, so no delays yet.
So lots of designs, and you started with board game and GoldenEye. What a great video game to start with. Did you play board games when you were a kid, or is this something that you were just sort of...
Like most people, my exposure to board games at a younger age was like, the traditional Monopoly, Scrabble, Life, Clue. So, those types of games. I didn't really get into heavier games till probably in my late teens, where I played more Catan, Risk also. I still like playing Risk, even though it's one of those classic games. But Catan, Dominion, some of those. Then I didn't really do much for a few years, and then probably a year or two before the pandemic, so let's say like 2018, 2019, I just ended up buying haphazardly Lost Ruins of Arnak, which is still one of my favorite games. I bought it at a game store just because I like the cover. Uh-huh. It had this kind of Indiana Jones theme, which is something that speaks to me, and I'm like, hey, let's organize a game night. And I didn't realize what modern board games had become, and I played that game and absolutely loved it, and that kind of put me down the rabbit hole.
Lost Ruins of Arnak is the game that started it all in terms of developing this. Look at the cover of this thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You hear the pieces rattling around inside. I hope I'm not going to knock everything all over the place just for making the video, but what a beautiful package. And then, so you were thinking about design, video game design, but then the in-person element here, the tabletop element is something that spoke to you. And then somehow you wound up on Kickstarter. There's a step here I feel like I'm missing.
So there's actually an important step and something I actually love talking about, and it's about mental health. So essentially, like I said, I was doing commercial sales and marketing for 17 years in commercial refrigeration, which is not something I was passionate about. So like I kind of hit a point in my life where it's like, you kind of like, oh man, I studied design. I wanted to be creative. I'm a creative person. I consider myself to be somewhat of an artist. And like I took the 17-year detour, like what am I doing? And I struggled with mental health, with depression and that type of thing. And I started getting therapy. And through that therapy, I realized that I was very unhappy because I had put myself in that situation. And through therapy, I helped kind of rebuild my confidence. And my therapist was very good at kind of convincing me that I was good enough to do this and that I should bet on myself. And if there's anything I've learned throughout the process, it's don't be afraid to bet on yourself. don't be afraid to fail. Like, I went into this at first. It's like, go big or go home. I did not cut any corners. You know, I tried to promote it as much as I could, and yeah, it's been great.
Now that's a good therapist. I haven't encouraged anyone to pursue board game design as a therapist yet, but anything can happen. So fantastic. So that was what allowed you to kind of take the leap, because it is a leap.
Yeah.
You know, and you get, I was talking to some designers and publishers a while back who said sort of like what you did, that it really is a leap, that it requires some courage, and that even after that, there's a bit of imposter syndrome, because you see all of these other games and you're like, well, is my little game as good as these other things? Are you finding that that's the same kind of thing you have to deal with?
It's interesting because I meet designers that have designed lots of games and very experienced games, amazing games, and they still have imposter syndrome. I think that's something that like never goes away, but also it's one of those things that I think is part of the reason that makes successful people successful. If you have that imposter syndrome, I think it's also because you care and you want to be good. You want your game to be good. You want your product to be better, and you're going to do everything you can to make it as good as possible.
That anxiety is what's there to drive you to strive to get to that high level. And look, I like this game.
Yeah.
I really fought tooth and nail almost in November to get to try this thing. I had to squeeze in when somebody else didn't show up for their playthrough. I was after poor Roberto. It must have felt like I was pestering him all weekend long. I was after him too. I want to try this game because I saw the pieces and he explained how everything works. So I'm really excited to talk in more detail about this as it gets closer to that time that it's coming out. And then you put it up on Kickstarter. Now, how did you figure out how to do that? Because I know I have some designer friends who are like, I'm not sure about Kickstarter. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I just did my research. I talked to other creators that had used Kickstarter. I also got the help of a couple of companies. One was Crowdfunding Nerds that helps with crowdfunding campaigns. Another one was called Launch Boom. So I had meetings with both of those and actually did work with both of those on creating like my landing page and my Kickstarter page. And so get help on the things you don't know how to do.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and first try, and you were successful in getting this thing funded. Well, and it, like I said, it's a beautiful game. There's a good reason why this thing is getting made. So fantastic. If someone, some young person who's beginning in college or university studying design wanted to become a board game designer, what advice would you give them? What advice would you give 18-year-old Roberto?
Yeah, I would say reiterate really quickly. So get your game to the table. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just get your core concept to the table in front of other people and play it, and be willing to accept that feedback and be willing to just reiterate quickly. Don't spend too much time on making it pretty and beautiful until you've got like kind of your core down.
Okay. And so you play it with a lot of different people.
Yep.
And every time I've done play tests with folks before they get to the point, like I played yours and it was like the pre-production, it was already pretty much made. But when I played other kinds of alpha builds, I see the designer sitting beside me with the notebook and they're writing down all the stats of each turn and how long the game took and what were the point differentials. And you've got to be a bit of a mathematician and data nerd too to be able to design a game that's going to be good at the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely use some custom spreadsheets that I made to track. I would track different metrics throughout my playtesting to make sure things would balance. I always wanted to make sure that there wasn't too much of a gap between the first player and fourth player in terms of scoring, and the first player and second player in terms of scoring. Those were two metrics that I kept an eye on. And it's like, hey, why is the first player always getting the most points? Like, okay, they're always getting this card or getting this, so this card is too cheap. So I need to increase the value of that to make that harder to get. So like you tweak until you get it balanced. And I'm actually really fortunate that I recently had it developed for Board Game Arena. So it's in beta there. And that was really cool because now it's been played over 1,000 times there. And I'm able to look at some of the statistics and it's like, yeah, it's balanced, it works. Because, like as much as you play testing locally, it's different from when it's going to be out there being played by thousands of people. Yeah. So that was kind of a good confidence boost. Like, okay, it's working. People are liking it. They're giving it good reviews. They're playing it. So
I never even thought about that. About Board Game Arena giving you all the data after the playthroughs. Fantastic. Okay. Well, there, I learned something new about Board Game Arena today. So you taught me something new, Roberto. Thanks so much for coming on Brains on Games. If somebody wanted to learn more about Gems of Iridescia or to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just Google Gems of Iridescia or my name, Roberto Panetta, you'll be able to easily find me on Facebook, Instagram, all the main socials, and a bunch of stuff will come up for sure.
And if you have any questions or comments for Roberto, you can leave them in the comment section below the video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. Previous ones are already up there. Brains on Games is the X handle and the Blue Sky feed and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. So we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully I'll see you next time.